Greetings, ladies and gentlefish, and welcome to the subscriber replay featuring a couple of replays that wave the flag for American light tanking. We're kicking off with Mak driving the Tier 6 American light tank, the T37, and he is here on the horrendous Abbey map. This is not a good light tank map. Now, often you find light tanks who spawn on this map try and rush for the, well, Abbey in the centre of the map. And I've seen some people have some monster games up here, but whenever I try it, I get the crap YOLO'd out of me, and it never goes well. Mak manages to find an enemy Type 64, puts a shot into him. This Type 64, he does not play this engagement well, let me tell you. He's just ignoring Mak in the first instance, allowing Mak to get another shot in before the Type has even responded. Now, the Type has higher DPM, Mak has more health, and Mak actually does something potentially quite clever there. He nudges the Type 64 right at the end to make it to make his last shot a more reliable kill, put it that way. Now, I don't know if that was intentional on Mak's part, if that's what was going through his head, but that was the result. So Mak has successfully taken the Abbey. Now, it's very unusual, you only see 2 light tanks come up here. But then there are only 2 light tanks all in the game, and only a total of 3 mediums. So in this particular instance, I guess that would work. I must admit, whenever I try this, as I say, I just get rushed and it goes horribly wrong. So there we go. Now there's a KV-1 an enemy KV-1 that's pushed right towards the friendly base, and got executed by a host of friendly tanks. There's another KV-1 round there that we know of. There's also an OI experimental heading in this general direction. T1 Heavy and a Tiger have been spotted on the 8 and 9 lines. And from the Abbey position, once you've taken it, you can actually get shots over into that area, which is another reason I don't like going down the 8 and 9 lines. You know, if you're going to be driving down this corridor, you would at least like to not be exposed to fire from enemy tanks, whereas actually it's a corridor and you're exposed to fire from enemy tanks. That just doesn't seem like a particularly good combination to me, but what do I know, I guess. Scoreline is 5-2, by the way. Mak's team is delivering a considerable amount of kicking. Tiger 1 here is stock, bless him, and Mak's just going to use him for target practice. You can see there he's using the stock turret and the L70 75mm gun. 1 more round should finish this guy off, maybe 2. No, there we go, 1 did the job. Now there is actually a bit of friendly fire on the, well, friendly team. The KV-1 put some shots into someone and the friendly artillery killed him for it, and it all got a bit messy. KV-1 here is getting a bit shot up, of course. Now, he does, to be fair to him, manage to put 1 round into Mak. Mak flubs that shot, but friendly artillery takes him out. Now, I find that a little bit odd. If you're in a Tier 7 artillery piece, are you really going to be taking a bead on a Tier 5, i.e. bottom tier tank on low health who's getting worked over already? Well, this is World of Tanks, of course you are. I don't necessarily think that was the best use of his shell, but I guess from Mak's perspective, it stopped him taking another shot. So, you know, it all worked out for the best in the end. Now the scoreline is 8-3. There's a KV-2 over to the right hand side. Mak's trying for a shot on him. He looked like he was going for the tracking shot, but this gun is not particularly accurate. If he'd gone for the side of the turret, he probably would have hit it. To be honest, at range with this gun, the best you can often do is just aim for center of mass. GW Panther should take, what, 4 shots to kill, maybe? That's how weedy this gun is. 115 average damage, I think it is, or 110 or something. 115 with 150 average penetration. There goes the GW Panther. Can he nail the Gorilla as well? Starting to run, well, not low on ammunition now, but starting to, you know, he's burning through it. Stuart Emil is a little bit distracted by the OI to his front. 1 more shot, however, will kill him. There we go. There's the Gorilla again, left on 3 health. There we are. There's a Churchill camping base. This is just a shooting gallery. Word to the wise, if you're in a heavy tank, don't camp base. It's just generally not a good idea. 1 more shot to kill this guy. There's kill number 6, and that's a Top Gun. Scoreline is 12-7. There's only 3 of them left, and they're all on the 1 and 2 lines. It looks like this is going to be one of those games where the Abbey works out. Now, Mak is actually running a little low on ammunition. He has 2 rounds of high explosive that he's had from the beginning, 6 rounds of armor-piercing composite rigid ammunition that he's had from the beginning, I believe, and 8 rounds of armor-piercing ammo left. And Mak is trying to squeeze through here, but there's corpses in the way, which is kind of a little unfortunate. Just going to speed this along a little bit until Mak manages to extricate himself from this situation. And takes the long way round. Someone please feel free to play the Benny Hill theme in the background. And he manages to pick up the kill on that KV-1S, who was only a one-shot, and now it's just the enemy OI. Although this OI is on quite a lot of health. So, yeah. And actually, the Black Prince on the friendly team has just died. Now, interestingly, the battle report was saying that he was killed by, well, the friendly artillery, which is a bit of a faux pas from him. I'm not impressed by this artillery player, I will be honest, but nonetheless. OI. Now, here's the thing about the Japanese heavy tanks. They have really good frontal armor. They also have really good bum armor. And so in order to actually damage them, you have to shoot them in the side. OI goes off early. Mak sets this guy on fire twice, which is really quite lucky. And he burns to death. And that's the game. Which ends up being really rather nice indeed. Let's go and have a look at those post-battle results. So, that ended up being good enough for an Ace Tanker, Bruiser, Arsonist, Fire for Effect, High Caliber Top Gun, and a Radley Walters medal, which is very nicely done indeed. I have still yet to ace this blasted tank. Maybe I'll do it one day, I hope so, because I am bored of it. But Mak managed to play a blinder of a game there. 3,521 damage with a gun that only does 115 average damage is really rather impressive. 8 kills, 1,605 base experience, and that assortment of awards to go with it. After Mak, there really is a massive drop-off in terms of both damage and XP. 37 shots fired, 34 hits, 31 pens for that 3,500 damage. Most of it from relatively close range, actually. 10 enemy vehicles damaged, 8 of them destroyed, 5 of them spotted, 390 odd assistance damage, travelled 3 odd kilometres, and made a 30,000 credit profit into the bargain. With a premium account, that would have been a 47,500 credit profit. So there's the T37. Let's move on and have a look at another mid-tier American light tank. Here is our second game, courtesy of Pansy, and he is driving the other Tier 6 American light tank, the T21. This is the one that's not on the light tank line, but on the line, the auto-loading line, if you will. Although, at Tier 10, both of these lines end up in the same place. Now, he is also top tier, quote-unquote, as he is in a Tier 7 game, in a Tier 6 light tank, which is the best matchmaking that you get. Here on Muravanka, home to the, well, former home to the Magic Forest. Now, in my opinion, the T21, and again, I have a review of both of these tanks, the T37 and the T21 on my channel, but in my opinion, the T21 is really the true successor to the old Chaffee's Crown. A lot of people say the T37 is the new Chaffee, and they're wrong, in my opinion. The old Chaffee had a relatively low top speed, but was very agile, with a respectable gun and good gun depression. The T37 is large, has a decent top speed, but is sluggish and has a pretty good gun. In fact, one of the better guns for a Tier 6 light tank. The T21 has an alright gun, has a relatively low top speed, and is very agile. Much more like the Chaffee. So in my opinion, this machine, this one right here, is the real successor to the old Chaffee. The old Chaffee, of course, was, well, replaced with the new Chaffee, you know, it was changed. So, just in the first instance, Pansy has come up to bush location here in what used to be the Magic Forest. He's just seeing if he can spot anyone and provide some vision for his team. Funnily enough, though, the enemy team seem to have decided that the former home of the Magic Forest is not somewhere that they really need to be, which is odd. It's usually worth having someone come over here, but apparently the enemy team has decided that this is not to be. Of course, I say the enemy team has decided as if there's some collective consciousness, which they're most definitely not. They're, you know, they're a bunch of individuals, and sometimes you feel that you're competing as much against the rest of your team as you are against the enemy. This does, of course, mean that the friendly team here is rather outnumbered on the other flank. And, oh my god, why is there a Tiger and an ARL still sitting in base? Are these guys AFK? Well, they're going to take a bit of a pasting either way. No, the ARL is moving. He's not AFK. Is he a bot? Maybe we'll never know. Either way, Pansy is picking up some nice assistance damage here. So let's not complain too much, you know. We shall take them. And now, unlike the T37, the T21 gets a very, very respectable ammo count. The T37, the ammunition, well, it gets enough ammunition to get the job done, but you can sometimes run a little bit low. The T21 gets something like 70 rounds of ammunition to play with. You're never going to burn through all that. I've certainly never come close to burning through all that. There we go, ARL and the Tiger are both dead. They both ended up moving, so they can't have been completely AFK, I guess, but whatever. One way or another, they've gone to a better place, and Pansy actually managed to pick up a kill with that. For kill number 1. So the score lines are, well, they're roughly even, slightly in the enemy team's favour. There's another ARL 44. Ooh, and he manages to put a shot into Pansy. Thankfully, that guy was using one of the 90mm guns by the look of it. Not the 105, so Pansy doesn't take 300 damage to the face. Instead, he only takes around about 240. There's the ARL in question. There's also, of course, a Hellcat over there. Now, Pansy does get spotted. And, ooh, if he hadn't moved, he could have been slammed by that ELC. But as it is, he's not a Muppet, and he does move. And if someone comes out... Ah, alas. No kill on the T37. Yet. That shot misses. This gun, like the T37, sorry, is not particularly accurate. One shot into the T37, and there we go. He is done. Panther now. Pansy is just going to plough shots into his side. So that's 2 kills for Pansy. Scoreline is 6-6. Now there's this Panther over here. 7-7, sorry. And basically the friendly team have almost lost the 1 and 2 lines. Now, considering how outnumbered they were, they've actually held on for a respectable length of time. Now, Pansy has switched to APCR here. I don't think it was intentional. If memory serves, it was an accident. I think he sent me a message saying the APCR into the Panther was entirely unnecessary. And indeed it is. I mean, you can penetrate the Panther, especially as this is the Panther's bum. You can penetrate him perfectly well with armor piercing, but whatever. Maybe it was more, you know, as Pansy is a dinger, that if he didn't fire a bit of APCR, his boss would have a go at him. You know, these things are all entirely possible. There we go, Mr. Panther. Another couple of shots should finish this guy off, assuming that that one bounced. 2 more rounds on average, assuming they hit. This is how you gratuitously spam premium ammunition, by the way. And now he switches back to armor piercing. And the friendly Panther actually picks up the kill on that enemy Panther. Scoreline is 5-5. The enemies have an AMX M445 and an ELC, and the friendlies just lost their Panther and their M44 artillery piece. So this is looking a little dicey. Trying to get shots on that AMX there, but no dice. And at this point, it is just Pansy and the friendly Panther and KV2. Now, the Panther is on full health, which is something, but the KV2 is some distance away from the other 2 guys, which is a little bit of a problem. We know where the ELC and the AMX were last spotted. There's the ELC again. We know where the ARL and the, well, ARL were last spotted, and the enemy artillery is probably hunkering down in, like, K1 or something like that. It's usually where you can find them. Sometimes, if they're slightly more inventive, they move, but it's often quite a safe bet to assume that they're not inventive and that they have not moved. So Pansy just trying to see if he can spot some guys here. There we go. And moving back so that there are bushes between himself and his targets, and that means that Pansy can start shooting up. these guys, switching targets from the AMX to the ELC in order to try and pick up the kill. A kill is one fewer guns shooting back at you, which is always nice. Lose the Panther there to the enemy artillery, which is a bit sucky. Now, thankfully the ARL there is not on a huge amount of health, but we know the AMX does have a pretty decent stack of health himself, though the ELC is a one-shot. So, KV2 and Pansy's T21 here are outnumbered by more than 2 to 1, and the KV2 makes the terrible decision to drive into the capture circle. Why is that a terrible decision? Because he is waving a massive flag over his head, telling the entire enemy team where he is. Not a good play. Now, AMX M4 here, if Pansy were to engage him frontally, this might actually be where Pansy would want those APCR rounds that he used on the Panther's bum earlier on. But, as it is, Pansy decided this is a terrible engagement and he wants nothing of it, which is an entirely sensible viewpoint to take. Now, the AMX is now capping the friendly base, which puts a time restriction on proceedings. But Pansy is relocating and switches back to those 3 remaining APCR shells. Now, this is not a completely lost game, and promptly uses those APCR shells. Oh no, he actually switches back to piercing. I was thinking he was using the APCR to demolish some buildings. This is not a completely lost game. Now, Pansy actually manages to fire while the enemy is behind bushes, and so doesn't get spotted for it. As I was saying, this is not a completely lost game. The friendly team can still pull this back. Especially if they make intelligent use of concealment, as Pansy is doing. And now Pansy does get spotted. This is dodgy. Get out of there before that AMX hits you. AMX misses. KV2 manages to take out the very low health ELC. A kill's a kill, I guess. But he is potentially facing down an ARL-44 and an ARL-V39. So that can be a slightly dicey situation. Pansy is slowly whittling this AMX down. The guy is still capping, however, so Pansy's going to have to keep up the pressure. Because the T21, has a relatively low top speed, he doesn't really have the speed to go and help the KV2 and then come back before the AMX caps. And now Pansy is alone, outnumbered 4 versus 1, and the enemy IS-2 is asking in global chat where the friendly T21 is. The KV2 is an utter scumbag and lets the enemy team know. And so, all respect I might have had for the friendly KV2 just went out of the window. Don't let the enemy team know where your allies are, especially if they've been playing a good game, and if they can still win this, you know, just let them do their thing. So, Pansy's trying to get spots on the capture circle here. He's not popping up from the same location that he did before. You've got the mobility in light tanks to pop up from different locations, so make use of it. 23 seconds left. He's got to find this guy. And there we go. Manages to get the reset, and he's going in for a hero run now. Pansy might take a shot for this, but this guy, wow. Maybe he doesn't have a good internet connection, maybe he doesn't have the best reflexes in the world. And he overcompensated there, and Pansy just, well, killed him. So there's kill number 3. Now, the ARL-44 is on low health. He's a 2-shot for Pansy. The AMX-13F3, we don't know exactly how much health he's on. Make that a 1-shot for Pansy. Make that dead. The AMX, we don't know how much health he's on, but there we go. Pansy takes a direct hit from him, and that leaves him on 6 health, but the shot came in from over on this side of the map. If Pansy can catch this guy while he's reloading, then that will be 1 fewer tank to deal with, and we haven't actually seen the ARL V39 do anything for flipping ages. Only 4 minutes on the game left though, so you know, we can't spend too long faffing around with this, otherwise the game will end in a draw. And as Pansy's saying in chat there, yeah, the sour KV2 isn't really helping. Actually, it was the Panther driver who, when the enemy IS-2 asked where the T21 was, the Panther driver gave him an erroneous location. You might say that's not very sporting. I say if you're going to ask where the enemy teammates are, you deserve people to be unsporting towards you. I'm sorry, just don't ask. Let the people play their game and let them win or lose, whatever happens. Now this is slightly awkward. By now the AMX will have reloaded, I can pretty much guarantee it. And Pansy has not yet found him. But, nonetheless, the AMX may not be expecting a surprise T21. Surprise light tanks are best light tanks. Now, someone is in the capture circle. We've been here before. And once again, because the T21's top speed is not the best, you don't want to leave it too long before going back to reset the base. Panther thinks it's the ARL. Pansy agrees. I'm also inclined to agree. It is probably the ARL. And Pansy says in chat that he is more worried about the artillery, which is an entirely reasonable perspective to take. Now, again, the problem with capping at this point is that you are just advertising to the enemy, in this case it's the ARL advertising to Pansy, exactly where you are. And there he is, and if your opponent is fairly intelligent, oh, but he gets spotted. I was going to say you could make intelligent use of cover and make a horrible mess of this guy, but there are two of them over here. Pansy does, however, manage to get the base reset, so that's the pressure off for now. He can happily relocate, pop up from somewhere else, catch someone by surprise. So, AMX 13F3 was over in those houses. ARL V39 is stubbornly still trying to capture the base. And Pansy is trying to make use of his gun depression to get a shot on the AMX 13F3. He can't quite do it. The AMX is a very low-profile artillery piece. It's based on the French 13-ton light tanks. Oh, sets the AMX on fire. And there he burns. And that just leaves this ARL V39 with some intelligent use of concealment, of cover. Pansy can win this, despite the fact that he's only on 6 health. He has a better view range than the ARL. I'm not sure about the relative camo values, but Pansy has the advantage that he maintains his camo value on the move. Pansy has a turret, the ARL does not. Pansy has a fair few advantages here. Now, again, timing. There's only 30 seconds left before the ARL will cap, so on the one hand, you don't want to make it an easy kill for the ARL on you. On the other hand, you want to be just a little bit careful. Pansy has not been spotted here, and actually bounces on the ARL. And from this range, Pansy's pretty safe. He can just light this guy up and kill him. Especially as Pansy's using binoculars, so if he just sat there and let his binoculars come up, he'd probably spot the guy. But, you know, again, he goes to a slightly different location, making intelligent use of concealment and cover. He's not spotted, he's not spotted, he's not spotted. ARL there. Resets the base. The ARL hasn't moved. And there we go. Pansy picks up the last kill on the guy. Blind. And polishes the game off with 15 seconds left on the clock. Pansy does like cutting things a little bit fine. So, let's go and look at the results for this bit of American light tanking. One thing that was actually interesting to note about that game, just before I get onto the score screen, was that I said the T21 carries enough ammo that you never run out, but actually Pansy was running a little bit low on ammo toward the end, and he wouldn't have been able to do what he did in that game if he had been driving the T37. He just wouldn't have had the ammo count. Anyway, how did that end up going? Well, ace tanker, perhaps unsurprisingly, especially because getting an ace tanker in the T21 is not hard. People don't seem to play it very well. Fire for effect, arsonist, spotter, bruiser, defender, high caliber, and top gun. No Radley Walters this time, but a nice top gun. 3,446 damage done, 6 kills, 1,951 base experience. Before premium account bonus or anything like that, base experience. I don't think I've ever had a base XP score that's quite up to that. And easily finishing at the top of either team, whether you count it by XP, damage, whatever metric you decide to use. 55 shots fired, which is more than the total ammo capacity of the T37. 37 hits, 32 penetrations for that 3,500 damage, most of which was from relatively close range. Pansy only received 2 hits, of which both penetrated, and one of them was, of course, from that artillery piece. 4 enemy vehicles spotted, 9 damaged, 6 destroyed, 2,000 assistance damage thrown into the mix, 100 base defense points, 8 kilometers travelled. You don't see that very often. And because Pansy fired those rather superfluous APCR rounds, he didn't make very much of a profit. Now, the APCR rounds he fired, it wouldn't actually have really made a difference if he'd fired AP instead. So he only made 1,000 credits with a standard account. He was actually running premium, so it was still a 24,000 credit profit. And once you factor premium account into things, that's over 3,000 experience without a daily double or anything like that. Cutting the game down to the last 14 seconds. So yeah, a very close run game there. And very well played. I hope you enjoyed both of those replays in American light tanks, one from Mak, one from Pansy. If you did, please feel free to catch some of my other videos and or subscribe to my channel, and I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao ciao.